And I can't help but think of maybe some of the stakes going into this game. You know, the fact that they had that long summer off, the fact that this was going to be the first game back, that multiple players across this roster are in form. And I'm looking at it, you know, top to bottom, a Thompson Macario Cooper, a Lavelle Coffee Heaps, a Fox McKeown, Sonnet Patterson, and a Tullis Joy in the net. I'm like, I look at that and I'm like, that's a pretty good starting 11. That's a starting 11 to me that goes out there and should win that game.
Yeah.
Whether you're gone for 113 games or whether you're coming back after, you know, the last 6 weeks or the last 2 weeks to get there, the last international window, which I have no concept of time now. But when you're looking at that other team on paper in Portugal, they are a team that has struggled to find regain their form, really. They did not have a good Euros. It was not a good group stage for them. It was to the point where I was like, something's got to change for this team because they have talented players. We have seen, Silva come over and play in NWSL. And for me, I was like, yeah, this is a program that needs to find that next step because their head coach has been with them for a very long time. And I'm like, this isn't working. And to my earlier point, I mentioned, I was like, God, I kind of just can't help but feel like Emma Hayes somehow got our coach by this man. I'm like, say it ain't so, Emma. Say it ain't so. Because I'm looking at this performance. And I'm like, goodness gracious, this is that type of performance where like a federation looks at that and they're just like, we're going to keep this man for another 8 years. Like, congratulations. And I'm just like, goodness gracious. So there's obviously I got feelings about it, but I can't and granted, this is the international level and you're not supposed to take any team in front of you for granted. So I'm in no way trying to, be disrespectful to any opponent that is visiting and the United States women's national team is hosting. But this is the highest level of ball. And when you're looking across that way and you're looking at that team and you're just looking at their form and you're just like, this starting 11 that Emma Hayes rolled out tonight should have come out with a dub. I think maybe that's to your point earlier, Jess, where you were just like, they should have won this. The personnel that was out on the pitch and considering the start that they got 30 seconds in. And so I do wonder, what do you do differently? We saw a 4-person change. That was the adjustment. 4 players came in just after the hour mark into this game. And you think, okay, well, maybe that's going to get the creative juices going here. We eventually see Hutton and Ryan and Sears and Johannes and Shaw. They all eventually get into this second half, but it just ends up being more of a chase. And then eventually that game winning goals and comes along and it's like, it really gets away from you. So what else do they do here to maybe try to change the past at this point, even though we can't change the past?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I remember when we were going through the Euros on attacking third, and one of the first things I said before the tournament even started, I said, do not sleep on Portugal. But obviously they ended up having a disappointing tournament. But I'm like, look, Portugal is one of those teams that you can never sleep on. One of my first caps was against Portugal. And I remember thinking after that game, like, this is one of the hardest teams I've ever played. I think we only ended up winning like 1-0 that game. And then, you look further ahead, in between, 2018 to now. I mean, they've all been very close games, U.S. Women's National Team against Portugal. Portugal's always been a fairly decent team. They're so hard to break down. They've got the speed, they've got the physicality, but then, they add a little bit of pizzazz when they're on the ball as well. The disguise passes, they're passing it this way, but they're looking this way. I mean, they just add a little something special to the game. And that's exactly what they brought today. This is the normal Portuguese team that I've been seeing throughout my playing career. The Euros, okay, that's done and over with. They didn't do too well, they failed. But, moving forward, I think this is going to continue to be one of those teams that you can't sleep on. It's never going to be an easy game, and never has it ever been in the past when it comes to friendly games with the U.S. Women's National Team and Portugal. So the loss surprised me specifically, But as close as the game was, goal differential wise, that did not surprise me because I know Portugal's always actually been a decent team. Defensively, they didn't do too well in the Euros, but you know what? Before that, they've actually been a pretty decent team, in my opinion.
And to piggyback off of that, Jess, I think let's kind of just like take the Euros out of the equation. From obviously, you're speaking about when you first played against Portugal when you were with the national team 8 years ago.
It was a
I
while
think,
ago. You didn't have to. You didn't have to
right,
drop
sis, I
numbers,
didn't, sorry, I
man.
didn't,
People,
you
we ain't
said
gotta tell
2018,
people
so,
my age.
yo, but what I'm, yo, I can't with you. But what I'm saying is that I think individually those players have gotten better playing for bigger and better clubs.
Hmm.
They are got players playing for Barcelona, Benfica. And I think with those individual, this is what I'm looking for, just like getting better, like individually playing for better clubs. It then ultimately helps them when they come together with the national team. So I think that's something that you have to look at as well. These players are not playing in, little small leagues anymore. They're now playing in the big leagues, playing with and against some of the best players in the world, and that then carries into the international stage. And I think, and when anybody knows that they're coming up against the U.S. Women's national team, they always plan. They always plan. They always come up with the plan. And it's execution that a lot of these teams get wrong. But tonight, Portugal had a plan and they executed it. You know what I mean? They shut down anything and everything that was coming their way, possibly. And I mean, aside from the first 30 seconds of the game, but after that, it's like they got their footing and got things together. So I agree, Jess. I think you can't sleep on Portugal. They're from Europe. Like, I mean, anybody that knows football in Europe, European football is a different thing. So I don't look at this as, oh, it should have been like a guaranteed win. Obviously, historically, when these two teams play against each other, the U.S. obviously has won every single time. Not tonight, though. It's a different time. So it didn't surprise me all too much based off of how Portugal constantly keeps getting better individually. But also with the fact that the U.S. obviously did have some time off. You're bringing in some newer faces, a little bit more inexperienced. But I also think Portugal had a plan and they executed it, and that sometimes it's just that.
That's how that. There you go. That's what
Yeah.
I think. That's what happened tonight. I think that's like the larger point we've all kind of mentioned, and to some extent, it's just kind of like you come in, like both teams came in with the game plan. One of them executed theirs just a
Yeah.
little bit better than the others.